Hello, Mindfulness Project family. It is Patreon time again, and the fact that I'm still sitting here and have time to teach you is because you guys are supporting us so incredibly. So thank you for all your loyal support. Okay, I had a talk with Danchin the other day, and she was writing me afterwards. She said, Christian, can you really teach me how I can deeply trust myself? And so I was thinking about the subject, and I thought this is actually a really, really good subject to make a teaching on Patreon, because there's so many people who have these conflicting voices inside of them, where they have difficulties distinguishing what is what, where to go, or even worse, that there are a lot of people who really don't even have access to their feelings, what they want, what they need, and they don't really. It's also a form of distrust, basically, of one's own, decision making. So it's of vital importance that you come to the point in your life where you deeply trust yourself, and that you just really trust that you're on the right path, that you're doing the right things, and then that you're saying stop when you need to say stop, when you don't want things. So the question is first, how does it come into our life that we don't trust ourselves? We're not born like that. And the answer is when we grow up. A lot of times as a child, we have a very super good intuition. We have a very good access to what we need and what we don't need. We are crying and we are laughing, and, it's for a good reason. But a lot of times in our upbringing, our parents, our teachers, or our friends having a deep influence on us. And a lot of times it happens that we have a feeling, and then our parents, teachers, or friends are telling us, no, you are wrong. So to give you an example, which happens a lot, is that your parents, have difficulties in their relationship. And as a child, you have a super good sense that there's something wrong. And because your parents are so important for you, you have very good antennas for that. So a lot of times when you say something, the parents try to protect you and say, no, you're wrong, everything is fine, it's great. And these moments, are very, very, very destructive for you in a life, because you have an inner feeling, but the outside is telling you, no, your feelings are wrong. And if that happens a couple of times in your upbringing, then, it adds up until we have the feeling that we cannot trust our feelings because they are wrong. It's the same thing in school. You probably all remember that you were learning something and you had the feeling, wait a second, this is not quite right. But the teacher is telling you, no, you're wrong. You get bad grades if you try to rebel against it. And so slowly, we lose the connection to our inner voice, and we lose the trust that our inner voice is actually something which is helping us. Another thing is what parents a lot of times do is that we are coming up with a subject that we want to know something, and then the parents say, no, you're too young to understand that. And we know we are not too young. There are a lot of things you can discuss with young people. And so that gives you the feeling, oh, there's, something wrong with you, or you're too young, you're too this, you're too that. And, you're not on the same level. And that, again, is really, really destructive for your inner life. And another thing which happens also when you grow up and when you're older is that your partner starts, or your boss, or, also your parents, they start to criticize you like crazy again and again. You're like this, you're like that, you don't, and these criticism starts to add up, where you start to doubt yourselves, your decision making, how, the time management you have, and that again can be very, very difficult. And you see that, in actually every single relationship, that this criticism is a form of pushing people down and making other people smaller and your partner smaller so that you can love from up to down. It's a very, very normal kind of thing in relationships, but a really, really difficult kind of thing. So, and the question is, how do we reverse this process? Because it has been, in our system for quite a long time. And so there are two different areas you need to look at. The one thing is that we have this wise inner voice in us, which actually just already knows everything. We know what we need. We know what we want. Deep down, we know our course in life. Sometimes we have this waking up moments, not only in meditation, but sometimes we see really clearly what is going on in our life and what needs to change. And then there's this other voices inside of your head, which are habits, conditioning, and addictions, basically, which have been formed as coping mechanisms to deal with your traumas and all these kind of things. So, and to really, really trust yourself, you need to understand your inner life, and you need to distinguish these two main voices inside of your head. So, for example, if, you have, like me, the addiction to sugar, my inner voice tells me a lot of times, hey, Christian, come on, we have trained so hard today, we can eat this Magnum ice cream today. If I would think, I need to learn to trust myself and I need to trust my inner feelings, that I would be probably overweight, have diabetes, and would die in a couple of years. So you need to understand, that this voice you're hearing right now is my conditioning, my habit, my addiction. And I need to be able to distinguish this from my wise and knowing part. So how do I do that? The first thing is always, mindfulness. So you need to become mindful of, your habitual patterns. You need to become mindful of your addiction. And sometimes it's really, really hard to understand that you are addicted to work, that you are addicted to sports, that you are addicted to beauty, that you are addicted to opinions, for example, and you need to understand this is just my habit, this is, what I do to be right, to feel good and stuff like this, and that's something different than my inner voice. And so the first thing what you need to do is to train your mindfulness to sit and not only on your meditation cushion, but to be mindful of your day-to-day life. You need to become mindful, and journaling helps to find your patterns and your reaction patterns, also in love relationships, in your friendships, and at your work. You really need to see what you're doing so that you see, okay, this is, my habitual voice. Right now I don't need to listen to that because I know where it's coming from, and we go another route. The second thing, what I would love you to practice more, is to make experiences. So the whole part of decision making is, when it comes to I don't trust myself, you cannot just say, okay, I really understand that, now I really start to listen to myself and trust myself. The pure will doesn't bring you very far. But what you can do is actually that you start to make experiences. So wholeheartedly you throw yourself into life, and that you just change the attitude towards decisions, and that you say, okay, I am going to make a decision. I'm just, from what I know right now, I just go. And, I stick to my decision, and then I see what comes out. I remember when Anya and I started to plan a children's retreat in Germany, because we invited the monks over to Germany. We were really insecure and we have never done it. So we went to Ajahn Somshan and said, how do we do that and how do we make it good? And he was like, you know what? We just do. And then we see the outcome and then we learn from it, and next time we do it better. And Anya and I looked at each other and we're like, whoa, this is really easy. It's a very light way of living your life. Just make experiences. Every decision is just an experience. Even big decisions, like if you love somebody, don't make this, is this a partner for my life or whatever? Just see and look, well, how does it feel? Go slowly, step by step, and see always again and again. And the only trust you need to have is that in the moment where your habitual patterns, your attachments, your addictions to love and relationship come in, that you're able to say, no, I'm not going to go any further. This is it. Or to stick with your decision. That is the trust you need. And the beauty of experiences is your brain works best if you have a certain belief system, that you start to create experiences for yourself where you prove yourself otherwise. That's the best thing. It has, these kind of problems have come into our minds by experiences, and the best ways is to create the opposite experiences. So start with the things you're good in, start with the things which are, your preferences. And from there make experiences and really acknowledge, I did this. I was good in that. That was the right decision. Be careful of your negativity bias, that you only see where your decisions are not so good. And when it comes to the second part, that was a part of your addictions and habits. And I spoke in other talks a lot about how to change your habits and so forth. But today I would like to go with you on a journey to our wise heart, to the power which really knows, what we want to do, what we need, and, where our path is going. So I made another worksheet. Please download it and work with it, because I think this can bring you really, really far. So this is their Trust Yourself 100% worksheet. Okay, and it starts with analysis, where you go inside of yourself and you have a look, what happened that I don't trust myself? The first question is, which situations in your past have left you with the feeling that what you think is right was not acknowledged by others or was denied? So just really write down, and you can take much more than the space I was giving you. Just really write down, what happened in your life? Where did your parents or teachers or friends were telling you you were wrong and you were right? So this is important that you go there. And another part of analysis is, and that's a painful part, so be very gentle with yourself. Where in your past have you left yourself alone? Where did you not care for yourself? And, we all have these painful moments where we know we should have said stop, and we continued. The most painful things, if you had sex with somebody and you didn't want to, and you weren't able to make a clear, healthy boundary, or you're in a relationship which is really toxic and you stay in it for years and it's just not really good for me, or you stay in a job, or you were so dependent on the love of your parents that you were denying your feelings. I remember one of my most painful experiences in my youth was when my mother was drunk, and she just closed her door, and I didn't see her for 2, 3, 4 days. And, I was 5, 6 years old, and I, needed to eat something, and I tried to, just make myself something, and it was so painful. So, in the end, always, I was writing letters. Must be later when I was writing letters. But, just putting that under the door and, was saying, I'm sorry for things I wasn't sorry. I was sure I didn't do anything. And that was really, really hard for me, knowing in my heart, that I was right and that I didn't do anything wrong, and saying I was wrong and apologizing. So these were the really, really deep moments where I started to deny my feelings and my needs. So that is the part of analysis. And, just if you feel like it's painful, just, go to a friend, get help with these moments, because when we swallow, every tear swallowed will come up somewhere else. So don't suppress it, but just go through it. It's part of our healing journey to go into these kind of things. So if the moments, which needs healing for the journey to trust yourself 100%. Another thing which comes up is, out of these situations, we have a very strong inner critic. And I just made a chart here for the inner critic, and, having a look, how strong is it actually in which area of my life. And to deal with the inner critic, there's a good trick. When you hear your inner critic, and this is why we have that on this paper, give it a name. A lot of times when you make it into a person, where you think about how this person, your inner critic, looks like, it gives you also a very, very clear idea, where it comes from. Is your inner critic male or female? Is it, a big guy, very, very authoritative, and, it gives you an idea, what you are afraid of. So give it a name. And then go deeper and see in which situations is my inner critic actually coming up most. So that is the learning part. This is the mindfulness part. And, what is the critic? What is my inner critic actually saying? And then think about it, because our inner voice is sometimes, a lot of times, that it either wants us to be protected from something, or it wants, it needs something. So just have a look, what is behind the criticism, what fear is behind it, what need is behind it. It can be very, very enlightening to do that. So, and then I came up with, just one practice I would like to introduce to you. It just came in my meditation when I was contemplating about it, and I called it the yin and yang exercise. And you start to write down what do you like about yourself and what are you good in. So when you see the yin and yang symbol, with the white and the black part, you start with the white part, and you just really write down what you like about yourself, what you're good in. Make the list. You can again use more space than I gave to you here. Can be more than 5, can be more than 10. So, and then the next is the white part of the yin and yang has a black dot in it. So there's always the difficult in the positive. So, and sit down and ask yourself, what is the reason why I became good in this? So, for example, I'm a very funny, spontaneous, verbally very, very strong person. And the reason why I became, verbally so good was because my mother was always just in her alcoholism, was very convincing in telling people the opposite of what was actually going on. So I needed, in a very young age, already be able to kind of like force it against. Or, I'm just very good in making things happen. But, I ran away from home when I was 14, so I needed to develop this strength. And so there's a good, but there's also, the bad and the good. And the idea of this practice is that you see which of the things I'm good in, and and what I like about myself really comes from my authentic power. Like, for example, I'm really good in playing soccer, not only because I'm German, but, I just love to play soccer. And, I would do that, day in, day out. And it was not because I wanted to be good or seen by others. I always loved the community aspect of it and the fun of it. And so that's authentically me, what I can do good. And so that you distinguish what you do and what you became good in to impress other people. It might be that you're extremely clever, and maybe it's just because you have seen that your parents and your teachers were, looking at it. So that gives you a hint which things you can actually focus more on and which things you might need to do less because it's the wrong motivation to do it. Alrighty? Okay, so that's the white part of the yin and yang sign. The other one is what do you not like about yourself and what are you not good in? So make the list and also be honest. Just write it down. It's already very freeing to do that. And then search for the white spot in the dark area of the yin and yang. So with the things I don't like so much about myself, I can bring these things and make it my practice of self-love and self-compassion and just really realize what is behind it. So to give you an example, what I mean with that is to bring you on this journey, because that is super healing, that is super important. For example, one time I was in psychotherapy, and I came to my therapist and said, look, I'm actually a hippie by heart, but I realize more and more that I'm an absolute control freak. I'm just really need to be in time. I need other people to be in time. I need things to go in a certain way. I just really need to control everything. Why am I so bloody German? Inside, because I don't like that in me. I don't like this tension and all this kind of stuff. And his answer really hit me deep. And, just when I was writing it down for the talk, the tears were running again, because his answer was that he said, Christian, your childhood was such a nightmare. It was such a mess that your inner child does not want this mess on the outside anymore. So your inner child needs structure and, needs to the things in the way that we feel safe, And if you just really want to honor your inner child, then you need to find ways to make your child feel heard and feel seen. So if you would write, or I would write down, for the things I don't like about myself, the number one would be control freak. So, and if I just, the second, part of it would be what need is behind it. What part needs to be seen and need to be compassionate with, and that is the bloody healing part, and then you can see, how do you deal with that in a very, very mindful and very, very loving way with yourself, so that you don't deny. A lot of people say, "Oh, I don't want to be a control freak." Why don't you just let go a little bit? Just dance naked on the beach, and that just doesn't help. That's the opposite of what your inner child actually needs. Just see that you find a beautiful balance, and find loving ways to, not even that your inner child comes to the point where it goes like, I'm, falling apart. But if you're mindful of what your inner child needs, then, you can go for it. And try out of this work, the black part of the yin and yang practice, try to find a mantra. Try to, a mantra for me would be, I will make my inner child feel seen and loved every day. So don't say no or don't, don't say, I promise myself to not be such a bloody German control freak. That is actually really not helping your mind. But try to find a mantra which you repeat every day, so that you bring it into your mind what you actually want to do. So that you can just, work with your mind, because your mind works by repetition. So in Buddhism, we have the loving kindness meditation where we repeat again and again, may all living beings be full of loving kindness, and so forth. And that's the same thing with these mantras. I would like you to work with them. You can take one, if you find the one powerful one, or you can take 3 and just repeat them again and again, depending on their shady sides of the yin and yang practice. Okay? If you have any questions about it, write it in the comment. I'm very happy to hear if you have problems or if you have something which came up. And I would also really love to hear from you in the comments or as a personal message how this practice worked for you, because maybe it's bullshit and everybody says, come on Christian, do something else, but I have the feeling that this can become really powerful, and I would like to know about it so that I can then work a little bit more into this direction. Okay guys? So, I hope you enjoy this practice. It is deep again, and just hold space for yourself and get other people to help you. And thank you again for your support. You guys are awesome, you are wise, and you have everything inside of you what you need. Love you, Mark.